Sandra Bullock. Sandra Bullock's Oscar for portraying Lee Ann Tui in The Blind Side seemed like a triumph of warmth and likability, but in hindsight, it has become one of the Academy's most awkward legacies. Bullock played the strong-willed Southern mother who takes in Michael Orr, a homeless black teenager who would later become an NFL player. The film's heartwarming narrative fit perfectly into the Academy's preference for inspirational, family-centered dramas, and Bullock's charisma made the story feel authentic. Yet the problem isn't her performance, it's the moral framework of the film itself. The white savior narrative, long criticized for simplifying complex racial and socioeconomic issues, positioned Bullock's character as the sole hero in Orr's story. Years later, when Orr revealed that he had never actually been adopted and that the Tuohys allegedly profited from his life story through a conservatorship, the film's entire emotional foundation collapsed. What once looked like a wholesome character study now reads as a dramatized misrepresentation built on false premises. Bullock's performance, while emotionally effective, leaned heavily on charm rather than transformation, a sharp contrast to Gabri Sidibe's raw, devastating work in Precious that same year. Sidibe's portrayal of an abused Harlem teenager demanded staggering emotional and physical vulnerability, yet the Academy favored the safer, polished narrative. A rarely mentioned detail is that Bullock initially turned down the role 3 times, believing she couldn't portray a deeply religious conservative authentically. When she finally accepted, she reworked much of the dialogue herself to make it sound more natural. Ironically, her instincts helped elevate the role, but it also reinforced how personality-driven her win was. The Oscar didn't reward the most artistically demanding performance. It rewarded the year's most accessible version of inspiration. Jennifer Hudson. Jennifer Hudson's Oscar-winning performance as Effie White in Dreamgirls was undeniably powerful. Her rendition of "And I Am Telling You I'm Not Going" became one of the most electrifying moments ever captured in a movie musical. However, the debate around her win rests not on her talent. It's about timing, narrative manipulation, and how the Academy often uses the supporting categories as compensation mechanisms. Hudson's victory came in a year when Dreamgirls was positioned as the Academy's prestige musical. The film led with 8 nominations but won only 2. While Hudson earned genuine praise for her raw emotion, her performance also benefited from the Academy's desire to recognize the film in some way after it missed out on Best Picture. This made her win less a judgment of comparative artistic superiority and more a reflection of industry politics at play. The irony deepens when you consider that Hudson, a first-time film actress, outshined co-star Beyoncé Knowles in both performance and press coverage. The studio capitalized on this contrast, publicizing Hudson's underdog narrative as an American Idol reject turned breakout star. It was the perfect Oscar story arc, one that eclipsed even the movie itself. Yet many critics argue that her win indirectly punished Eddie Murphy, who lost in his own category after his controversial public persona alienated voters. An overlooked detail: Hudson's character Effie was originally inspired by multiple real Motown figures, not just one. This artistic blending amplified her emotional material and gave her the kind of showcase most supporting actors rarely receive. In effect, Hudson's Oscar was less about competition among actresses and more about rewarding the film's only undeniable highlight, an astonishing debut packaged inside a broader institutional correction. Jamie Lee Curtis. Jamie Lee Curtis's Oscar win for portraying Deirdre Beaudeirdre, the stiff, humorless IRS auditor turned multiverse villain, was as surprising as it was polarizing. The film itself was a creative explosion, a sci-fi family drama that swept nearly every major category. But within its ensemble, the question wasn't whether Everything Everywhere All at Once deserved recognition, it was who among its cast should have received it. Most critics agreed that Stephanie Hsu, who played Joy Wang, and her nihilistic alter ego, Jobu Tupaki, delivered the more challenging, emotionally layered performance. Hsu embodied both heartbreak and cosmic chaos, switching between quiet despair and surreal villainy with complete control. Curtis, meanwhile, served as a comedic foil, embodying bureaucratic absurdity through exaggerated movements and a deliberate lack of glamour. The Academy's decision leaned on sentimentality more than merit. Curtis, a beloved industry veteran from a Hollywood dynasty, had never been nominated before. After decades of acclaimed but often genre-based work, especially in horror, the Academy used Everything Everywhere All at Once as a vehicle to grant her overdue recognition. It was less about Deirdre Beaudeirdre, more about Jamie Lee Curtis's entire career. The irony is that even Curtis herself admitted she didn't fully understand the script at first, a candid comment that fueled debate over whether her award symbolized performance excellence or career compensation. Her most memorable scene, a brawl involving trophy-shaped butt plugs and paper cuts through multiverse chaos, became a meme more than a testament to acting brilliance. The win exemplified how supporting categories often transform into lifetime achievement acknowledgements disguised as competitive victories, leaving many to believe Stephanie Hsu should have claimed the gold that night. Will Smith. Will Smith's Oscar win for portraying Richard Williams, the intense, visionary father of tennis icons Venus and Serena Williams, should have been the perfect full-circle moment in his career. He had already been nominated twice before, once for Ali and again for The Pursuit of Happiness, and both losses fed the narrative that the Academy owed him. King Richard appeared designed to complete that arc. The performance was committed and precise. Smith captured William's stubborn confidence and unwavering belief in his daughters. Yet, beneath the inspiring surface, critics pointed out a structural flaw that undercut the film's integrity. Instead of focusing on the Williams sisters' achievements, the film centered their father's perspective, transforming what could have been a sports biopic about two extraordinary women into a sentimental story about paternal ambition. The result was an Oscar bait package, earnest, uplifting, and formulaically heroic. Compared to Andrew Garfield's transformative embodiment of Jonathan Larson in Tick, Tick, Boom, or Benedict Cumberbatch's chilling precision in The Power of the Dog, Smith's portrayal felt conventional. His charisma carried the film, but it never stretched him beyond his well-established emotional range. The situation worsened when the infamous onstage altercation with Chris Rock moments before his acceptance speech forever tainted the achievement. What could have been a defining career milestone became a cautionary tale about fame, impulse, and legacy. An overlooked fact about the role is that Smith personally financed a significant portion of the film's production, reportedly ensuring his co-stars received bonuses when the movie went to streaming. This act of generosity mirrored the real Richard Williams' protective nature, yet the irony remains that Smith's off-screen moment overshadowed the very humanity his character embodied. Gwyneth Paltrow. Gwyneth Paltrow's Oscar win for portraying Viola de Lesseps in Shakespeare in Love is often cited as one of the most politically driven victories in Academy history. Her performance, a noblewoman disguising herself as a man to act on stage and inspire William Shakespeare, was graceful and charming, yet not particularly groundbreaking compared to her competition. The real engine behind her win was not her portrayal. It was Miramax's relentless awards campaign, spearheaded by Harvey Weinstein. This campaign revolutionized Oscar marketing by saturating voters with targeted advertising, lavish screenings, and emotional narratives that positioned Paltrow as the romantic heart of a film that ultimately defeated Saving Private Ryan for Best Picture. The win became less about artistry and more about persuasion, a demonstration of how aggressive campaigning could overpower critical consensus. Paltrow's victory denied Cate Blanchett recognition for her transformative work as Queen Elizabeth I in Elizabeth, a performance hailed as regal, commanding, and far more complex. Even Fernanda Montenegro's subtle, human portrayal in Central Station was widely considered superior. Despite this, the Academy gravitated toward the lighter, more crowd-pleasing Shakespeare in Love, rewarding charm over gravitas. Paltrow's role quietly echoed one of Hollywood's favorite Oscar archetypes, the woman who disguises herself as a man to transcend social barriers, a trope that historically wins favor among voters. Another hidden layer, her accent work and physical training were personally supervised by coach Barbara Berkery, who had previously trained Kate Winslet, cementing a tone of theatrical authenticity that enhanced the illusion of Shakespearean grace. Still, while Paltrow's performance holds nostalgic appeal, it remains a prime example of how money and marketing can shape cinematic history more decisively than merit. Kim Basinger. Kim Basinger's Oscar win for portraying Lynn Bracken in L.A. Confidential was elegant, sultry, and quintessentially noir, yet her victory reflected more about Hollywood's political mechanics than a simple artistic triumph. In the neo-noir masterpiece, Basinger played a high-end escort modeled after silver screen siren Veronica Lake, her quiet poise and melancholy presence adding sophistication to a brutal world of corruption and violence. Critics praised her restrained allure, but the deeper truth behind her win is that it served as a symbolic consolation prize for the film itself. L.A. Confidential was the critics' darling of 1997, earning 9 nominations but losing nearly everything to James Cameron's Titanic, which dominated that year's ceremony. The Academy, unable to ignore the artistry of Curtis Hanson's meticulously crafted noir, rewarded Basinger as a gesture of balance, a way to acknowledge the film without disrupting Titanic's historic sweep. Her performance also benefited from strategic category placement. At the BAFTAs, Basinger was nominated as a lead actress, but for the Oscars, her studio campaigned her in the supporting category, where competition was lighter. This tactical move essentially guaranteed her win. A small but revealing fact, Basinger was the only cast member from the ensemble to receive an acting nomination, despite Kevin Spacey and Russell Crowe delivering equally acclaimed performances. That imbalance hinted at the Academy's internal bias toward recognizing glamour-driven roles in stylized films over the gritty masculine leads. Ironically, Basinger's victory represented both triumph and tokenism, a reward less for her character's emotional depth and more for the film's need to be seen as artistically validated amidst Titanic's commercial dominance. Zoe Saldana. Zoe Saldana's supporting actress Oscar for Emilia Perez carried enormous symbolic weight. She became the first Dominican-American performer ever to win an Academy Award. Her portrayal of Rita Mora Castro, a lawyer drawn into a cartel boss's gender transition plot, was layered and empathetic, balancing legal cynicism with moral awakening in a surreal musical crime drama. Yet, beneath the applause, her win was inseparable from the political turmoil surrounding the film. Saldana's co-star Carla Sofia Gascon, the title character and Best Actress nominee, saw her campaign implode after offensive social media posts resurfaced, including remarks disparaging marginalized communities. This scandal forced voters into an ethical dilemma: how to honor a critically beloved film without aligning with a publicly tainted nominee. The result was a vote transfer effect. Academy members redirected support towards Saldana, the production's uncontroversial figure. Her performance remained strong, but it wasn't necessarily the film's most transformative turn. Gascon's dual portrayal of a cartel lord and her post-transition identity drew heavier dramatic focus, while Saldana's role served as the moral lens through which the audience processed the story's extremes. Still, Saldana's poised, emotionally contained acting fit the Academy's comfort zone, moving yet safe. Saldana studied legal consultation transcripts to ground her character's dialogue in authentic procedural language, even though the film's tone was operatic. Her preparation lent realism to scenes that might otherwise have felt implausible. Ultimately, her win functioned as a political safety valve, rewarding a landmark film while sidestepping controversy. It highlighted how easily external crises can redirect Oscar momentum from the most daring performance to the most publicly agreeable one. Julia Roberts. Julia Roberts' Oscar win for Erin Brockovich marked the height of her star power, but it also showcased the Academy's tendency to equate charisma with craft. Playing the brash legal assistant who uncovered Pacific Gas and Electric's toxic water scandal, Roberts commanded every scene with her trademark wit and fiery confidence. The film's dialogue was sharp, her energy infectious, but the underlying critique of her win lies in the difference between performance and personality. Roberts didn't disappear into Brockovich. She became a heightened version of her public persona: fast, talking, magnetic, and headstrong. Her nomination year included Joan Allen, Juliette Binoche, Laura Linney, and Ellen Burstyn, and it's Burstyn's loss that still stings most for critics. Burstyn's devastating portrayal of Sarah Goldfarb in Requiem for a Dream, a lonely mother descending into drug-induced delusion, was a haunting study of obsession and fragility, yet it was deemed too dark for mainstream voters. This pattern reveals the Academy's safety bias, a preference for uplifting narratives led by recognizable stars over psychologically punishing films. Roberts' victory became a cultural event, punctuated by her exuberant acceptance speech, where she told the conductor not to play her off. Behind the scenes, she had nearly passed on the film, skeptical she could balance comedy with activism. She later rewrote portions of dialogue to sound more authentic to the real Erin Brockovich's voice. A subtle alteration, the pageant title changed from Miss Pacific Coast to Miss Wichita, shows how Hollywood reshaped real events for mass appeal. Roberts delivered sincerity, but in doing so, she won for being Julia Roberts at her best, not for transcending herself. Her Oscar cemented her legacy while proving that sometimes fame itself is the performance the Academy most loves to reward. Reese Witherspoon. Reese Witherspoon's Best Actress win for portraying June Carter Cash in Walk the Line fits squarely into the Academy's long-running affection for musical biopics. The role demanded precision and discipline. She learned to sing, play instruments, and master Carter's distinct Tennessee cadence. On paper, this level of preparation appeared transformative. In execution, however, her performance was polished but calculated, more imitation than revelation. Witherspoon radiated warmth and comedic timing, but she never quite captured the emotional volatility that made June Carter such a complex figure in Johnny Cash's turbulent life. Many critics at the time argued that Joaquin Phoenix, who portrayed Johnny Cash, carried the film's emotional gravity, while Witherspoon functioned mainly as its moral anchor. Her victory illustrated how the Academy often favors technical impersonation, replicating gestures, accents, and songs, over deeper psychological transformation. The year's strongest contender, Felicity Huffman, delivered that very transformation in Transamerica, embodying Bree, a pre-operative trans woman on a cross-country journey to reconnect with her son. Huffman's performance was immersive, raw, and culturally daring for its time. Yet voters gravitated toward Witherspoon's more conventional and uplifting portrayal, proof of Hollywood's comfort with safer narratives. Commendably, Witherspoon recorded all her vocals live rather than lip-syncing, insisting on authenticity despite her limited musical background. That insistence impressed voters but also blurred the distinction between technical achievement and dramatic depth. Ultimately, her Oscar reflected the Academy's biopic bias, rewarding accuracy and accessibility over artistic risk. Walk the Line gave her a career-defining moment, but it also highlighted how easily the Oscars mistake diligent craftsmanship for emotional metamorphosis. Halle Berry's Oscar for Monsters Ball remains both historic and divisive. She became the first, and still only, African-American woman to win Best Actress. Her portrayal of Letitia Musgrove, a grieving widow navigating poverty and loss in the Deep South, was a masterclass in restraint. She conveyed anguish, not through theatrics, but through stillness, a trembling quiet that revealed despair without melodrama. The win was universally celebrated as a breakthrough for representation, yet it also raised uneasy questions about what kinds of stories Hollywood deems worthy of honoring. The film's most infamous sequence, A raw, explicit love scene between Barry and Billy Bob Thornton overshadowed much of the film's nuance, leading to years of speculation that its intensity, rather than its emotional complexity, swayed voters. Barry later had to publicly clarify false rumors that the scene had been unsimulated, an unnecessary burden her male peers rarely face. Critics have since debated whether the Academy recognized Barry for artistic excellence or as a symbolic milestone to address decades of exclusion. While her performance was undeniably strong, the film itself, grim and morally ambiguous, left audiences divided. Yet few can deny the courage it took to play a woman who endures unimaginable loss only to discover her new lover executed her husband. That final silent moment, where Leticia chooses not to speak after the revelation, encapsulates her emotional endurance and the film's refusal to offer easy redemption. Barry prepared for the role by shadowing women in small-town Georgia and adopting their speech patterns to ensure authenticity. Her victory was both a triumph of craft and a cultural corrective, yet it inadvertently underscored how rarely Hollywood allows black women to win unless their roles are framed in suffering. Al Pacino. Al Pacino's Oscar for Scent of a Woman stands as the quintessential makeup win, the Academy's attempt to repay an artistic debt rather than recognize the year's best performance. As blind Army Lieutenant Colonel Frank Slade, Pacino delivered a loud, theatrical portrayal filled with bluster, gravelly speeches, and the now iconic hoo-ah. The role, though entertaining, showcased a version of Pacino that leaned towards self-parody rather than the layered subtlety of his earlier masterpieces like The Godfather Part II and Dog Day Afternoon. Critics widely agreed that he had already given more nuanced, technically refined performances years before. This award simply arrived decades late. The irony deepened when Pacino was also nominated that same year for Best Supporting Actor in Glengarry Glen Ross, a sharper, restrained performance many considered far superior. The Academy's choice revealed its bias towards size and sentiment. Voters favored the bombastic, populist energy of a leading role that shouted emotion rather than the intricacy of language-driven craft. A surprising detail: Pacino reportedly spent weeks blindfolded to understand visual impairment, even navigating New York streets without assistance, an effort that deepened realism in small gestures, like Slade's careful tilt towards sound cues. Still, the overall characterization slid into theatrical excess. The win symbolized the performance magnitude preference. When Hollywood mistakes volume for depth, Pacino's Oscar closed a long overdue chapter but also marked a turning point in his career, ushering in the era of grandstanding roles that defined his later style. If this breakdown hit the spot, the video on your screen takes it even further. Go watch it right now.